Hi, I'm Jeff. This is WebVee Guide Conversation. Today we're talking with Rachael Hip-Flores and
Hey.
Alisha Spielmann from
Hey there.
Producing Juliet. Welcome, ladies. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure's ours.
Thank you.
What she said.
Saturday, you're both up in New York City?
Nope.
Yep.
I'm actually. Oh wait, we're both in New York, but we didn't grow up in New York.
No.
You live in New York.
I live in New York. We live 12 blocks from each other.
It's marathon weekend, isn't it?
Yep.
This is what I'm
New York
told.
City Marathon is tomorrow. Yeah.
Apparently, go somewhere near us, probably. So it's going to be difficult crossing the street for a couple hours, but it should be fun.
Yeah, it's always a nice Sunday.
But it is daylight savings.
Yes.
Oh.
Fall back. An extra hour of sleep, maybe. So,
Thank goodness.
let's talk a little. Alisha, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? What's your background? Tell us your story.
Well, I I grew up in Minnesota, in Northeast Minneapolis, and I have one brother and one older brother and two younger sisters. I went to college also in Minnesota at a small liberal arts college called St. Olaf College. I actually got a music degree. I studied opera there, and theater. I got a theater degree and a music degree. And after college, I spent a year in Boston with this children's theater company touring. And then I spent a year in Minneapolis doing theater there. And then I moved to New York after, a few decisions and kind of the universe doing its thing. And here I am, yeah.
Do you still
8 years
sing?
later. I do still sing. I don't pursue it as much as I probably should, I guess. I love singing so much, and I studied for a very long time. Like, I basically knew how to sing before I could even talk. Is how the story goes, as my mom tells it. But I'm not a trained dancer, so I'm an awesome dancer and I'm a mover, but I'm not trained at all. So singing was kind of something that took a bit of a side tour for a little bit while I kind of just started getting doing straight plays, and you know how life has its thing of just kind of having doing its own thing, and you just go with it sometimes, so I just went with it. So
Yeah, man.
and also I absolutely love singing.
Did you
But I always,
Now, was your family creative? Did you come from a creative background?
The industry, so to speak. My dad is a civil engineer, and he designed roads, and he is very creative with like landscape making and things of that nature. And my mom stayed home raising us when I was younger, and she is one of the most creative people that I know. But as far as like theater and acting goes, my older brother did theater, and my sister Jackie did a little bit of theater. But I was kind of the one to kind of really have a passion for it and kind of take control and move forward with it. So nobody in my family is in the arts right now, but they're all very supportive and super awesome.
When did you discover your love of the arts?
Well, I've always really loved singing, and I always really loved performing. Growing up, I didn't really have the accessibility of working on plays until I was a little, in middle school and things of that nature. But even in 5th grade, I remember kind of begging my mom to take this acting class that was just like a, after school sort of thing, nothing to do with the actual school I even went to. And then when I was in middle school, the principal I went to Highview Middle School, and Dr. Eugene Young, he was the principal there, and he actually was this amazing person. He's still alive. Is this amazing person that really influenced me. He grew up in New York, and he was an opera singer, and he had this program called the Humanities Program where he'd take a group of kids, and I got to be one of them, awesomely enough, and he would take them to plays and to operas and to musicals, and we would get out of class once a week, and we would learn about art and literature, and he totally kind of just like I don't know. He's part of the reason why I am who I am, I think. You know, so that kind of, he was the one to actually tell my mom, because my mom knew I always sang, but I kind of was a little shy about it too. And he told my mom, I was in this choir and I was in ensemble. And we were performing, you know, during the holidays at this like mall just for like an hour. And I didn't really tell my mom about it, but I was just like, yeah, I gotta go do this thing at this mall. And he was the one to actually call my mom, and he was like, you realize that she's singing and she's got a solo and you should come see this. And my mom had no idea because I was shy. So yeah. So after that, she kind of like encouraged me, and you know, my family's always so supportive. But that's kind of, I don't know, I've always loved it.
Rachel, you're a Jersey girl.
I am a Jersey girl, but don't tell anyone.
Okay. Tell me about growing up in Jersey.
Growing up in Jersey. All right.
You've had some time to plan your origin story now. So.
I know. I was orphaned.
Yeah,
I was born in Jersey, but then.
I was born a poor black child in Mississippi.
Exactly. Nice. So growing up in Jersey, I grew up in Central Jersey, which is neither sort of Sopranosville in the north, nor Jersey Shore down in the south, or even sort of like the pretty Pine Barrens area. I grew up in Central Jersey, which is essentially corporate headquarters. So we had this really weird mix of like everything's clean, like very sort of you know, manicured lawns type of a thing. But thankfully it was also really diverse because we had people from, you know, all over the world coming to work at AT&T or Johnson & Johnson or, you know, wherever. And so I was very lucky that way because it was very diverse, and I don't think I do very well in homogenous places, which is why I live in New York. So I think my first experience with performing happened because of my sister. I'm the youngest. I have an older sister and two older brothers, and my older sister, when she was a sophomore in high school, was doing the musical of was doing the High School Musical, was doing The Wizard of Oz, and they needed munchkins. So she's like, she called my mom and she was like, hey, we need a munchkin. We need munchkins to bring Rach over. And like, you know, I was not a particularly shy child, so I was just like, yeah, let's go and do that. So that was my first play, and I was Munchkin number 2. And I had a line, I know. And so ever since then I started doing, you know, I did the high school plays, I did a bit of community theater. I sort of never particularly got out of it. Sometime around 3rd or 4th grade I started doing, local television. And that was
Are those
very
on
fun.
What kind of local television? I mean, commercials or
no. Commercials would have been
cartoon
slightly
shows?
better. I love doing it. It was sort of like it was called Kids Corner, and it was a news magazine show for probably around 8 to 12-year-olds. But I just sort of lived on that show for much of the rest of my adolescence, and by the time I was graduating high school, I was writing for it, producing for it, and I sort of never got out of that. But it never sort of occurred to me to be a performer professionally, because that's a terrible life choice. So I was more of a writer, honestly, for much of my life. I was very heavily academic, and so the time came to apply for colleges, and I applied to a couple top-tier schools, and then just sort of as a lark, I auditioned for this conservatory, the conservatory at Rutgers University, Mason Gross School for the Arts, and randomly got in, had no anticipation of that, and thought, this is a very strange opportunity. I should probably take advantage of it. So I did, and as much as anyone with a passion can fall into that same passion, I sort of fell into performing, in that I had most of my life tracked out as a writer until I was about 18, and then I was like, oh, acting is kind of fun. I should probably try that for a while. So here I am.
How did your upbringing, Alisha coming from Minnesota and Rachel getting back into acting as when you went back into college? How does that inform what you do as an actor now? What influence or effect does that have on you as an artist and as a craftsperson?
Being from where we are at, or
yeah, your background and you know how you really entered into the industry. Does that inform what you do?
Oh yeah, I mean,
and your craft.
Go for it.
I think I'll go. I'll start. You can finish it up.
All right.
I think absolutely. It's really funny because when I first moved to New York, I tried to hide the fact that I was from Minnesota. I was nervous that people would take advantage of me, and I was nervous that people would think I'm stupid or silly or, you know, like not smart, or I just had all these like insecurities about who I was and where I was from. And then after a little while, I kind of came to the realization that where I'm from and who I am, these are not things that should be looked upon as faults, but rather strengths. And the minute that I kind of realized that, the minute I started, you know, actually taking control of like who I was and like respecting and appreciating that, but actually like it kind of became an amazing thing because there are a lot of people out there in the world, and there's a lot of actors, a lot of amazing actors, but there's only one person that can tell the story the way that I can tell it, and it has 100% to do with where I'm from, how I was raised, you know, who I interacted with when I grew up, like everything that has to do with me. The only person that actually can tell the story in the way of that nature is me. So I kind of, it absolutely influences everything that I do, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, it makes me different from everyone else in a good way, I think.
Rachel, does your past writing and your involvement with production, does that have an influence on what you do as an actor, having been on the other side?
I think a bit, yeah. I think just the sort of the way I approach a script tends to be a little bit more on the academic side, where it's sort of like, all right, let me look for clues. Let me, you know, there's a part of me that looks at a script the same way I used to look at, you know, pieces of literature when I had to write essays on them. You know, you have to sort of build your perception from what, rather, you have to build your interpretation from what's actually presented to you. And so I think that sort of like nerdiness or like just sort of desire to dissect things sort of plays into that, and I think, you know, it's just sort of dovetailing off of what Alisha says. I think it might be a little bit difficult for everyone who moves to New York from somewhere else, and so to like just sort of deal with who they are in that context and where they're from in that context. And so I agree. I think there comes a turning point in hopefully most people's lives where they just sort of accept, oh yeah, this is who I am, and by the way, you don't have to like that, but it's not going to change. Like, it's not going to change who this is. And so, yeah, I think, especially being from Jersey, it was kind of like always in New York's shadow, where it's like, yeah, we're here too. What? I think just sort of accepting that about yourself.
One of the bridge and tunnel people, right?
I refuse to be called that. No, that's a whole separate thing. But I am from Jersey now. I do sort of, I have come to accept that about myself.
Now, both of you seem to have accomplished, at least a significant level, of the ability to be working actors and to find projects and to work.
There's a lot of trying going on.
What do you look for in projects? What attracts you to projects? Is it sometimes just the paycheck, or is it, or do you look for something? Does there have to be something artistic, and artistic merit to what it is?
I'll totally do whatever it is for a paycheck, honestly.
It's really
Like,
nice when it's both, though. Yeah.
yeah, it is nicer when it's both, but you know, there are times where it's just like, yeah, and by there are times, I mean, really, there's a paycheck involved? Yes. So yeah,
It's hard. It's
it
hard
is,
making
man.
a living just as an actor. I have a lot of other jobs in the city because I don't always get paid for the stuff that I do. But also, if there's a play or a project or a script that I absolutely love, like, you know, I will make it happen if if I really love the script. I want to make it work, and I make it work. So sometimes that entails having other jobs other than acting, though.
Agreed.
What drew each of you to producing Juliet and to wanting to be involved with this? Rachel, I know you've worked with Tina on several occasions.
Yeah.
And you got to work with Rochelle Dancel, who is like a new best friend.
Well, here's the thing. Oh, dude, Rochelle's awesome.
She's awesome.
So, yeah, obviously I'd worked with Tina before, and so twice before, and so when she approached me about it, I was like, yeah, anything you want. And so she showed me the script, and I was like, yeah, anything you want. It was great, and so reading the script and sort of she did lightly sort of not with the idea that I would be in it, but I remember we were at the IAW TV Awards, I think, in 2011 maybe. And I remember she was sort of like toying with the idea then, and like, you know, sort of, it wasn't with the, I don't think she was putting feelers out, you know, in terms of like my involvement. She was just like, what do you think of this? And I was like, that sounds awesome. Can I, you know, carry equipment for you? So that was, of course, the initial sort of bite, and then, you know, we met. I think I met Rochelle in person for the first time when we went to London last year, in 2012, and it was just like, oh, you're fantastic. Let's have ice cream always. So it was just, you know, this sort of magical coming together of like, you want to do this? Yeah, let's all do this. This is going to be great.
Alisha, what drew you to the project? How did you get involved?
I think I got involved because of Miss Rachael Hip-Flores. We go last spring with Flux Theater Ensemble, a play written by a great playwright named Jonna Adams, called Sans Merci. And Tina came to see that show, and a little bit afterwards, she contacted me asking if I would audition for it. And yeah, I said absolutely. So I auditioned, and they said, can you help? Can you play? And I said, sure. So that's how that worked.